Good morning and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Monday, June 6th, and the time now is 9:08. Notice for this budget hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on May 26th, followed by June 2nd. The committee will now hear Bill 276-36 COR Committee on Rules by the request of the I Maga'hågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. An act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Governor of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, making other appropriation, establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions relative to the Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disability, known as DISID. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this morning. We have the Oversight Chair, Speaker Therese Terlai. We have Senator Telo Taitigui, Senator Chris Duenas. I know Senator Jim Mullins here. Those testifying on Bill 276-36 COR relative to DISID are invited to the panel. We have them on the panel, and I'll have the director introduce the staff as we move along. General rules for this public hearing. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. Ms. Guerrero, you have more than 5 minutes to present your budget. Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for question or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. I'd ask that all of the staff, after you're introduced, when you first speak, identify yourself, state your name and your position, and after that, you won't have to do it again, just once. All right? Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. We're here to discuss the budget of DISID. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from oral testimony and will be removed from the room. I'd like to also recognize that we're also joined by Senator Joanne Brown. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Other questions may be submitted to the committee for submission to the agency for their response. Please state your name and title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members from DISID to rise and for the sergeant at arms to swear them in.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. Chair, you may proceed under oath.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. We'll now begin to discuss the budget of DISID. I'll ask Ms. Guerrero to please introduce her staff, and then she may begin her testimony. Ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Half-a-day Chairman Agustin, Speaker Madam Terlahi, and the members of the Guam Legislature. I am Phyllis Leon Guerrero, Director of Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disability, also known as DISID. With me today is Michelle Paris, Deputy Director, Mr. Joseph Cameron, the Acting Vocational Rehabilitation Administrator, Mr. Jeffrey Warfield, Social Worker for the Division of Supported Services, Ms. Lydia Calville, Lead Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor for DVR, and Marilyn Cruz, Secretary Statistical Clerk. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to provide the testimony for DISID's budget for fiscal year 2023. DISID's agency was created by Public Law 2416. The agency serves as a public service to coordinate and provide comprehensive community and vocational rehabilitation services for eligible individuals with disabilities. As such, 2 divisions were established: the Division of Supported Services, also known as DSS, and the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, also known as DVR. We'll be presenting our budget requesting for fiscal year 2023. Services DISID DSS provides source funds used for Director's Office and DSS, DVR, highlights of the agency, and our action plan. Next slide, please. I hope you can all see that. You also have the PowerPoint in front of you. We were able to give you one. We provided you an updated version of the budget digest. The initial digest has a technical error in the section for FTEs, which indicates 0 employees. The bottom line has not changed from what was initially certified. As you could see on the first section of our DISID budget fiscal year 2022, total funds was $7,194,989. And you could see on the bottom, the local match was $285,461. Our local funds, $5,109,528, of which $1,490,028 is from the general funds. $104,208 is allocated for the Director's Office and DSS and DVR's and Admin and Fiscal Division, and $4,060,500 for the Healthy Futures Fund. The $4,060,500 is allocated for the Catholic Social Services contracts and job coaching. On the second section, you can see that DISID's budget request for fiscal year 2023 is $8,191,220. This is including the federal match, which you could see on the bottom, $2,085,461. The local funds request is $6,105,759, of which is $1,113,997 from the federal funds and $4,991,762 for the Healthy Future funds. The amount of the $1,113,997 from the general fund is distributed to the following. It's allocated for the Director's Office, the Division of Supported Services, our office-based rental, operational cost, DVR Administrative Office, and as you can see, we have the DVR match. The amount for the $4,991,762 from the Healthy Futures Fund is allocated as follows. The full amount of $4,991,762 to fund the critical needs of respite care, personal care attendant, community rehabilitation programs, and to include the care dot homes. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Division of Supported Services. DSS is responsible for the development of community services delivery system, which includes the design, implementation, administration, coordination, monitoring, and evaluation of programs and services for persons with disabilities within the limits of local and federal resources that are allocated. The division, along with the Director's Office, is supported through the General and Healthy Futures Fund. The goal of DSS is to increase the number of individuals served through quality programs and services that promote independence and affirm the dignity of the individuals with disability. The goals of DSS are collaboration with nonprofit organizations and private organizations, expanding current program services, design the gaps in services for individuals with disability and their families, and one of the things we need is the Adult Activities Day Center. Okay, we're currently on this slide for DSS services. Some of the DSS services provides include assisting clients that are with acquiring services and submitting referrals to the following agencies, organizations such as GURA. Housing is a top request. As you know, GURA provides public housing and Section 8, the voucher program. Some of the programs that we have assisted our clients in applying for include emergency housing voucher program. For clients who are under ages of 62, there's non-elderly disabled and mainstream housing program. For clients 62 years of age and older, we'll assist them with a project-based program. And last, for the GURA, the Housing First program for those who chronic homeless and disabled. In addition to GURA, other referrals are sent to the following. As you can see, it says Public Health, Catholic Social Services, Behavioral, Salvation Army, GRTA, DRT, Guam Cedars GSAT, and DOA, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Next slide, please. So, DISID has contracts that we are availing to. So, DISID received the contracts for the following programs in July of 2021. These services are contracted through Catholic Social Services, also known as CSS. DISID has successfully negotiated with CSS to continue the services for fiscal year 2022. The three contracts that we work with CSS is respite, and respite care services provides relief or respite to a non-paid caregiver as a child or an adult with a chronic disability or terminal illness. Respite care services provides personal care attendant services to individuals with disability. The program provides temporary non-medical care in the home, including companion care and direct hands-on personal care. The goal is to provide relief for the caregiver so they can take time for themselves to help ease the stress for the caregiver. The program also provides personal care attendant services to individuals with disabilities to encourage independent living for as long as possible. The number of consumers that we have there are 30. The next contract with CSS is CHP. CHP, an adult service, provides activities and support for individuals of age 18 and over who are severe intellectual developmental delays and significant disability. The program provides at least 6 hours of daily services to adults with significant disabilities needing independent life skills, training, and other services to engage socialization integration in the community. The number of consumers being served today is 10. The third contract is CareDot. CareDot program offers 24-hour residential placement and support services for adult consumers 18 and older with persistent developmental and cognitive intellectual disability. The consumers being served today is 22. We'd like to take this opportunity that if there's ever a time that you'd like to visit these homes or any of the programs that we are offering through CSS, please let us know. We'd like to give that tour to you. Okay, next slide, please. As you can see, we have the general fund. The Director's Office, DSS, current funded positions is social. We have 3 social workers, 1 office aide, the director and deputy director, and that totals up to $548,698, with the salary and benefits. On the right side, on the second column, is unfunded vacant positions. Social work, we have 3 social worker 2s, administrative assistant, administrative officer, program coordinator 3, community program aide, program coordinator 4, and the totals there, $493,915, which includes the salaries and benefits. Next slide, please. We'd like to present on the ARP fund. Right now, the current funding position, we are proud to say that even if you see that social worker 1 where it says pending DT results, he starts today. So we actually have 4 new employees today. So 2 social workers, an administrative officer, a program coordinator, and Mr. Cameron, who is the acting VRA, who started in February. On the other side, we have positions in recruitment, a social worker 1, administrative assistant, program coordinator 4, community program aide. And the total is $237,816, salaries and benefits. Next slide, please. Now, Mr. Cameron will be talking about DVR.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and my fellow wonderful senators who have had the opportunity to be with us today. The Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is a federally funded mandate that proceeds back to 1973, and at that time it was Mrs. Salas who actually started the program. And I recall back in 1975, I actually spent 6 months working with Mrs. Salas. What a wonderful human being she was. She is the mother of rehabilitation as we know it today. This federal program is a specific program that based on eligibility. It is not a specific program that is considered to be an entitlement program, meaning something that is freely given to others. That is not what the federal government looks at. The federal government looks at us with the grand scale that individuals with disabilities have major opportunities, even the most severely disabled individuals, for job opportunities. And again, vocational is just that, is jobs. Like the Division of Support Services, we do get phone calls for other things such as, I would like to have a hearing aid, but there is no job placement included. So that is definitely not something that we can do within the federal guidelines. We are required to provide programs and services, training, education, any type of on-base training for jobs, or for that matter, we do have also supported employment, which is a separate and apart program from the Title I, which is the basic program for vocational rehabilitation. Along also, we have the independent living of the older blind. We have approximately $40,000 there, and it allows for us to work for individuals who are aging, the aging population, who have some needs maybe for assistance in paying for glasses, for the ability to see clearly. It also has mobility programs for those who are legally blind. We can pay for such services. Very little money, but nonetheless, it's there. And it's been of great service to the public who have, for some reason or another, falling off the gap, who didn't qualify for public health or any other social services programs. Again, that falls under the 1973 Rehabilitation Act as amended as we know it today. Our match is only 21.3%. And of that, for example, in the year 2021, our federal grant was $2.5 million. We have continued over the years, and we will continue to do so in the future. We want to thank you in advance for making sure that throughout every budget cycle, the match, even though it's just a small amount, nonetheless, it makes us be able to do what we need to do so that can reach out to folks. One of the other things that I would like to share with you today was that back when I was first director for the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, we have a staffing pattern of 22 employees. Today, we only have 9. As we speak, the director, the deputy, and I have already moved forward in recruiting the remaining that are out there in the peripheral. Next slide, please. In today's pandemic, the emphasis is on providing ongoing services to applicants and current clients in increasing staff to be met. For example, program coordinators, planners, also individuals who are going to work with our computer systems, softwares that's gravely needed and to be purchased. We are trying to secure, there was an attempt by the department to secure such a national known program, but it fell in the gaps of the GSA requirements, and we're revisiting with GSA how we could make that happen this year. We are quite excited to announce to you that we are hiring 4 to 5 additional vocational rehab counselors that have specialty in the area of education, having worked with individuals with disabilities in the school system. We believe that there are gaps there. There are pre-employment training services that fulfill 15% of the VR funds that we receive. So 15% of 2.5 million are geared towards those 6 senior high schools. I'm very excited. Quite honestly, I have some classroom resource teachers who have indicated themselves that they've had many, many years of experience working with individuals with disabilities in the school system who now want to go to the other side of the house and to actually start providing such services that they would have wished they were in the ability to do so. So I'm pretty excited. I think VR is moving in a direction for which we really do need to move forward on. We want to build additional partnerships in the private industry. I believe back when I was director for the VR programs, I had more than 12 businesses that were partnering. I'm happy to announce to you that that partnership has resurged, and we're building capacities as we speak. We're very excited that businesses see the value of individuals, not as disabled, but value of individuals who have opportunities to work and be qualified for the work that they have selected. We are also wanting to revisit with the federal government the Randolph-Shepard Act Blind Vendor Program. This is a federally mandated program. We, many years ago, Guam that is, was authorized by the Commissioner of the Rehab Services Administration under the United States Department of Education to actually effectuate a blind vendor program. And we're very happy to announce that amidst all the other tandem leaps that I have to provide so that we can move VR back to the century that it needs to be on, the blind vendor program is one of those paramount programs that we're excited to say will ensue within the next 2 years. We want to also expand limited funds that specifically deals with the elderly, and I mentioned this very briefly to you. Although very little, nonetheless, very significant for those who felt like they were left in the gaps. We would like to right-size the supported employment program. To many of us in the listening audience and to the legislature, we have sort of like a concern and a kind of like a misnomer of sorts when we use the word support employment. That's exactly, those two words actually are intertwined and marriage to each other. We support those who are employed. It is not job coaching where we have individuals who are not employed. Job coach is just that. They have a job. And within the guidelines of the federal mandate that created such a program set aside from Title I, which is the entire VR system, we deal with the most significantly disabled, and sad to say, even though we've made every effort for some, a very select few, those consumers, although we've spent in excess of $70,000 at times, we made every good effort to see that they can be gainfully employed. And we are now finding out centers that we need to think above and beyond that we cannot and we will not be able to expend in excess of those grants because they will be considered disallowed costs. But we can't throw anybody out in the streets. It's unconscionable. I think one of the things that the Lieutenant Governor brought to my attention, along with the Director and the Deputy, is that we have to look at opportunities for day programs, activities programs, occupational therapists, recreational therapists, art therapy. And I'm happy to tell you that the Director, I don't want to steal your thunder, Madam Director or Deputy, but we are working very closely with Public Health. We've seen some opportunities for funding in that area, and with maybe a minimal match. So I'm pretty excited to be back on government. I was retired, and then for the past 4 years, my director here kept pushing me to come back, and I kept saying no. But then my nose it fell on deaf ears. So I'm back. I want to right-size one small item, and that is under, I believe it's on the next slide. If you look to the right-hand side, you will see that there's an asterisk on administrative assistant, computer programmer, administrative aide, planner 3, and customer services rep. I can't speak of the past, but I will speak for the future of the program. Those asterisks do not fall under fiscal offices. They fall under consumer. And they must be right-sized as I speak to you and as I have spoken to the federal counterparts in DC. I meet with the federal counterparts of DC, communicate with them every other day, and in some cases, Zoom meetings with them at least twice a month. And they were very concerned that some positions were to be placed under a fiscal office, which has nothing to do with fiscal. It has everything to do with the program itself, on which those individuals that you see up there that are asterisks actually report directly to the vocational rehab administrator. They've made it very clear to me that to be able to right-size and to avoid any high-risk grantee status, we must return to the norm and place those asterisk positions not under finance, but under consumer. Next slide, please.
Okay, I'd like to... My apologies. So we'd like to highlight some of the great things that we've done in DISID. Recruited and selected a vocational rehabilitation administrator. Amended the current Catholic social services contracts to increase the limited number of clients served based on funding. Wheelchair donation for the needy. And I'm sure you all know it was 324 wheelchairs that we received from Latter-day Saints. Provided ADA compliance support for the implementation of the homeless shelters, agencies, and private entities. Partnered with Barragata Mayor's Office to establish a vaccination site for individuals with disabilities, their families, and general public. A minimum of 50 individuals with disabilities received their vaccination. Completed the RFP process and successful negotiation for CSS programs, which began in fiscal year 2022. DISID is working closely with the Department of Public Health and Social Services to utilize GetCare MIS case management system for DSS, an integrated system that co-shares data for closer system for care advances. One of the reasons why this is really important to us is because as our individuals with disabilities get older, we know that eventually they're going to be senior citizens and they'll fall right into the MIS so public health can see as they track what we're doing on our side too. Successfully relocated the Division of Support Services to an accessible first floor. And as you can see, DVR will follow. We're excited about that. Increased successful gainful employment for program year 2021, which was July 2021 to June 2022. Next slide, please. So for our highlights of outreach, we partner up with the Office of Homeless Assistance and Poverty Prevention to provide in-person outreach activities at several locations on the island. DSS social workers provided extensive outreach to clients during home visits during the island-wide lockdown. Partner with the tri-agencies Guam Developmental Disability Council, Guam Cedars, and Guam Legal Services to implement the Vaccination Access Project for individuals with disabilities. Provide monthly ADA workshops to Governor Guam agencies. Provide disability awareness and sensitivity to training to Government of Guam employees from various agencies. Provided an ADA support to the National Guard for its vaccination site at the University of Guam. We partnered with the Guam Systems for Assistive Technology during the annual conference and expo. Participated in an island-wide job fairs from UOG at the UOG and ICANN Resource Services. Next slide, please. In our action plan, DISID continues to face the barriers in filling critical positions. We are in critical need for DSS social workers, community program aides, and program coordinators and other support staff that adversely impact the operation, most especially in the Division of Supported Services. This very concern is felt by all agencies and organizations who are in need of social services here on Guam. We are in communication with the University of Guam, Dr. Natividad, and she's aware that DSS is also in that realm of need of support. So we'll be a part of her plan of action, bringing social workers in. Complying with the 2% law, DISID has had conversations with several senators regarding how current statute needs amending. DISID continuously states that the certification of disabilities falls under the jurisdiction of a licensed medical or allied health professional. DOA is the agency that receives the employment applications for line agencies. They will be the entity to determine if the individual meets the criteria for positions being applied for based on knowledge, skills, and abilities for the job applying for. DOA would have access to the data on individuals who meet the 2% and those agencies that are in compliance. We introduced the Division of Evaluation Enforcement and Compliance Statute, also known as DEEC. Federal counterparts providing technical assistance in the procurement of nationality utilizing MIS. I believe Joseph discussed that already. Then our new clients. As mentioned, there's a need for social workers in our critical positions that we have at DSS. Again, we are proud to say we just hired 2 new social workers with starts today. So now we have a total of 5. So if our dream world is we would like to have at least 7. So we're trying to move towards that direction to get 3 additional more, or 2 more. Okay, shown on the list is the required inquiries that we receive. The needs and services most often requested are as follows: caregivers or personal assistants, housing assistance, accessibility housing, assistive technology devices and equipment such as wheelchairs, prosthetics, hearing aids, dentures, adult diapers, monetary assistance, in-home hospital beds, shower chairs, medical supplies such as gauze, medical tape, food assistance, bus passes, gas cards. Sir, we know that you provided some questions that you'd like us to answer, so at this time we will be answering those questions. I'll be reading the question and then answering it after. Are there any prior year outstanding personal services obligation, salaries, increments, pay adjustments, reclassification? If yes, what are the amounts? And our answer is no. Have you procured the majority of budget supplies and equipment for the year? Yes. What is the status of capital outlay projects being implemented in fiscal year 2022? None at this time. Has a budget expenditure or expenditure plan been prepared for federal assistance funds the department has been allocated? No. The only funds we received were ARP. How much, if estimated possible, or federal assistance funds has the department received and expended or obligated to? None. The only funds we receive are the ARP. Do you feel the department's fiscal year 2023 budget request represents the true needs of the department to meet in core mission and objectives? As mentioned in the presentation, our critical needs in personnel, which are the current budget costs, which the current budget does not fund. So that money is actually coming from the ARP as we're bringing on our additional staff.
Ms. Longuero, as you attempt to answer the question, since you answered most of them no or yes, for number 6, is that yes or no? And explain.
So, do you feel that, okay, so, do you feel the budget request? It doesn't.
We need more money for that.
Yeah, we need more money for that in the local funds.
Yeah, identify it so that we can address it.
Okay, so
Okay?
if you go back to, is it slide number? because we actually put the amount of what the cost would be. Do you know what slide that is, Michelle?
Ms. Longuero, as you move along on the questions, these were given in advance. Be able to answer it and move along, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So on slide 7, this is the funds that we need on the local side. The ARP will be running out in December 2024.
Ms. Longuero, you have your comptroller here? You have your CFO?
Our ASO, we don't have an ASO. She's been out since December.
Okay, Ms. Longuero.
So Ms. Paris has actually been taking the lead on all this.
I'm trying to keep this simple.
Okay?
Please don't ask us to look at your chart. Give us the answer.
Okay.
You know what the answer is. Tell us what it is. Do the math and give us the answer, okay?
So the amount just for personnel will be $1,187,234.
So you're saying you're short 1 million?
Yes, sir. It's okay. Because this is for 2 years, right?
Okay, move along to the next question. Please just answer it. Be complete. You have the info provided.
So based on the
Thank you.
governor's American Rescue Plan, have you received your department's allocation? And yes, and we received $3,954,022. And the last question is, are you aware of the appropriation reserve on the amount being held by BBMR? Are there plans by the end of fiscal year with the guidance from BBMR? We are projecting, with the guidance of BBMR, we are projecting to use the lapsed funds of $67,000 with the 100% release of reserves, which may allow for promotions for 3 social workers 1 to get to social workers 2, and to fill the 1 to 2 positions for remaining fiscal year. In closing, even the challenges faced by this pandemic, limited resources and personnel, DISID's hardworking and dedicated staff, I believe this is the first time we've had this many people represent our agency, have continued to provide services to our clients and consumers. I'm honored to work with a team of dedicated and selfless individuals who truly care about the well-being of individuals with disabilities and their families of Guam. So the amount that I gave was the total of all the way to fiscal 2024. So per year we would need $593,617 per year for our personnel.
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Longuero, you have a sheet like the rest of us have up here? Yes, right? Llewellyn, make sure they have a copy. So when I start asking questions, they can answer it. Are you familiar with that document, Ms.
May we
Longuero?
get one more copy? Thank you.
Are you familiar with that document, Ms. Longuero? Are you?
Yes.
You're
So-
familiar with the document, okay? Let's
Yes.
just move along then, okay? Number 1, it's identified that you're basically asking for $996,000, am I correct? For 23.
Yes.
Okay. Would that meet your needs?
Yes.
Okay.
For the year. For fiscal year. And then,
Ms. Langro, follow my questions, don't add as we go along. I'm trying to keep
Okay.
this simple, okay? This is for FY23. It's identifying that you need 996,231, correct? For FY23.
yes,
We'll talk about 24 when we get to 23.
okay,
Okay, we'll move along as we move. And it also identifies that you zeroed out job coaches. I know you have some reservations for job coaches, but there are concerns out there for job coaches. If you were provided the funding, could you continue it?
no.
If you were provided the funding,
Oh,
you
yes,
could-
sir.
Okay,
Yes. Sorry.
I'm trying to keep this simple, okay? Moving along, you've identified a reduction in your director's office of 58,000, your DVR of 25. You've got a new administrator. Is that acceptable? I just need to make sure that we're in agreement, because as we all listen to the slides, you're trying to right size and you're trying to fill position. It's also identified in your slide on page 10, unfunded vacant position. It also says shall be 100% federally funded. Does that to mean that on your unfunded vacant position, you will be getting the funding to fill those positions?
No.
No.
So,
Let's slow down the yes and no, okay, because I want to make sure that this is the hearing where we're trying to make sure that the challenged people of Guam is getting the assistance they need. All right?
yes, sir.
On page 10, Sergeant Arm, can you have the staff pull up page 10, slide 10, so we can stay focused on where we're at. I'm just trying to hit certain areas that there are concerns out there. I'm getting calls from folks that want assistance from DISID, okay? It's identified on page 10 or slide 10 that you have current funded position and you have unfunded vacant positions. It also says in the very bottom, shall be 100% federally funded. Does that mean then that that's all going to be 100%? You're going to be able to get the money? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Senator. Michelle Perez, Deputy Director. So perhaps I can clarify. These individuals that you see here in the asterisks, we're actually moving them over to the federally funded side specific to consumer services, which is 100% federally funded. So like, for example, with the VRA position, the Voc Rehab Administrator position, that's 100% federally funded. So there is no match. It's all funded through the
DBR.
grant. Now, with the funded positions that you see here under fiscal and admin, that's where there's a 10% that need, 10% of the salary is what the general fund or the
Local
government,
funding.
yes, would need to match.
And it's in your budget?
Yes.
Okay. The only reason why
Yeah.
is because as I look at that chart, it says unfunded.
Correct.
You did, Mr. Cameron did say that it's being moved.
It's going to be moved, yes.
And maybe you shouldn't have had it there to begin with because you're moving it,
Yes.
okay?
Understood.
Just want to make sure that we understand
Yes.
that. Okay, and then moving along, there's another area. But I'll save my questions towards the end. Would like to also recognize my Vice Chair, Senator Amanda Shelton. But we'll move on now to the Oversight Chair to ask any questions, and then back to my Vice Chair. Madam Speaker?
Yes, thank you. If you could please clarify, now I thought it was clear in your presentation, but now I'm confused. So you gave a slide that says Director's Office, DSS, and it talks about current funded positions and unfunded vacant positions. And then you gave another slide that's DVR, Administrative Fiscal, that says current funded positions and unfunded vacant positions. So your budget is asking for a 996,000 increase from last year. So on top of last year's, this is not the total request, this is on top of 7 million, right? You're asking for almost another million. So if you go to the first slide on page 6, it's the director's office, DSS. It says you've got 3 current social workers, but you've got 3 unfunded vacant positions. Are you going to fund those with the $996,000 increase?
No, ma'am. That is actually because it was unfunded because of the cap with the current budget. What we did was we used our ARP money to fund those 2 of the 3 that I'm sorry, the social worker 2 positions are kind of like a promotion, so we're trying to use funding that we currently have to promote our social worker ones that have been with us that are classified. So
You're using ARP.
not for the social worker 2s, I apologize. I'm talking about the next slide over.
Which one?
The one that you were talking about, the unfunded, the current funded positions and the positions in recruitment.
Yes.
Yes. So because we've been trying to acquire social workers and other positions because everything was unfunded other than the warm bodies, what we did was we used ARP funding to fund these positions and recruit.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I want to clarify your terms here. So you're saying
Okay.
unfunded vacant positions, but you give a total. Are you intending to fund these in FY23 or not?
We can't with the current cap that we have.
No, so these will continue to
be
unfunded
unfunded
vacant.
unless we use ARP funding to supplement.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you are using ARP funding?
ma'am.
So you've got current funded positions with ARP and positions in recruitment. So
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the total of the ARP funds that you've received?
No.
You received more than this?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so how was that used?
I'm sorry.
How was that used?
We're using some for,
Contract,
we are using,
it's right here.
I apologize. I don't know what no, I have it right here. We are using 1.187 million for personnel, which is this is for the duration of the ARP funding. That's our goal, to continue to keep these individuals staffed and on board. And then we are also using some of the funding for our Catholic social service contracts to increase the amount of clients that we can serve in most especially the respite care and personal care service and programs, as well as CHP, which is the day program.
Okay, so you're going to be able to use that ARP funds throughout 23 then?
Yes.
Okay, so just talk to us about what we are going to fund then, or at least right now. So this ARP funded positions that you've given us a list, we don't need to pay attention to that because you're funding that with ARP funds through
Yes.
FY23,
Yes.
right?
We just wanted to provide that information
Okay.
to you.
All right, thank you. So you do have, with the ARP funds and the local funds, you will have 5 social workers. And you said your ultimate is to get 7.
Correct.
Are you going to be able to fund 7 with the $996,000 increase?
No.
Not. Okay, so $996,000 increase is going to keep you at your current staffing levels
Yes, ma'am.
with,
And
with ARP.
With including the ARP, using the ARP.
we are not going to, if we don't have, we are not going to be able to hire more social workers with general fund or local fund money with the current budget that we have right now.
What about with your FY23 request?
Correct. We will not be able to hire any new,
Or do you need them?
yes.
Yes.
Then why didn't you not request them?
We put them in, but it's zeroed as far as funding is concerned. It's zeroed out because of the cap that we have.
What do you mean cap?
So as with every, go ahead, Justin.
BBMR has sent out those caps throughout all Governor of Guam agencies, notwithstanding the fact that to carry over some of the greater needs of human capital, the ARP funds will fund up to and will end in 2024. So the short answer would be, if we were wanting to utilize funds on the local side, we don't have because of the cap. Moving forward, hiring these much needed social workers, which is great under the ARP, At some point in time, beyond 2024, the general fund will have to kick in for sustainability.
Yeah, so for my purposes today, I'm ignoring 2024 because I got to get through FY 2023. And so I just want to know, you need more social workers. You are not requesting for more social workers. You are telling us by these documents that you do not need more social workers. And that is really a problem because the chairman, you know, and everybody gets to say that we don't need any more social workers. So I'm asking you to explain the cap. Why do you say there's a cap to your request? Director,
Yeah.
is this your request? The $996,000 increase?
So, yes, right? Yes.
Is this going to fund the additional social workers that you say are in critical need?
Yes,
It is?
yes.
So you're funding everything you need?
Well, sorry if I'm misunderstanding your question. So we do, like you said, Speaker, you want us to put aside the ARP. You want us to make sure we're talking about the funds that we need now to hire with general fund, correct?
ARP is going to get you through FY23, right?
Yes.
So those are taken care of. Do you still need 2 more social workers?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Are you funding 2 more social workers with the budget that you are requesting?
No.
Right, and I'm asking you why not? If that's critical, it doesn't look critical to us if you're not requesting for that.
So as we move forward, just the struggle that we're getting, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Speaker. So with the struggle we're getting, it took us at least 9 months just to get 2 additional social workers. So yes, that is on me. We should have added already in, because you're right, it is a critical need of getting 2 additional social workers. Did I answer your question?
I don't know what you mean about the 9 months.
So bottom
No.
line is, like you said, we should have put it in that we need what the total is that we're looking for of all our social workers. So, if need be, I mean, if we need to amend this budget, then we will, because you know what we're doing is unfortunately we're looking at the ARP, which we shouldn't be. Right, because right now it's saving us. It's giving us the life raft that we need, right? So would we be able to receive that funding from this body?
You're going to have to be, I'm trying to help you to be very clear as to what your needs are. And it sounds to me like even if we increase your budget from the current fiscal year, if we increase it in FY23 by $996,000, which is almost $1 million, that still will not fund the social workers that you need.
Yes, so you're right. We are requesting for the funding on the general fund.
For 2 more social workers?
Yes.
How much is that?
Where's the breakdown? I know in this slide we have the breakdown on social workers. Can you just divide this by 3? So it'll come out to 187. Oh, no, wait, with the benefits and salary will be for 2 social workers, additional social workers, it'll be 124,954.
Okay, so you have to decide, and I would suggest that you put that in writing to the appropriations chair, that if you really need $124,000 more in your budget to cover 2 more social workers, what would be the result of adding 2 more social workers above the social workers that you've been able to procure through ARP funds and above your current social workers?
So each social worker, as of right now, the 3 social workers we currently have, they have customers or clients of 200 clients per social worker. And as you heard that we even have CareDot, CHP, and Respite. So You heard the numbers of 10, 22. So one social worker will be assigned to those 3 contracts, and then the others will take some of the weight off our other social workers, because per month, we have 25 new clients coming in.
All right, so each social worker currently is handling 200 clients.
Yes. And we have a social worker here at our table.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. It does not sound ideal by any means. And I know that you brought that up at the oversight hearing that we had, that at that point there were 150 clients per social worker. And maybe that's why, you know, our offices receive calls.
Yes.
And yeah, it's something that I think you need to say is the priority, if it is the priority. So the $996,000 increase from the current fiscal year that you're requesting, is that for an increase in the service contracts?
Yes.
So for the most part, that's all going towards those service contracts. And so what is the difference between current year and what you're proposing in FY23 in the service contracts? I mean, how many more people, is it going to serve more people, or are we going to give better services, or yeah, why the increase?
That increase is dealing with the salaries and benefits, specifically for the contract, how they have their salaries and benefits. And their goal also is to increase their clients. So we did have a meeting with the executive director, Diane Calvo, and she's trying to add at least 2 to 3 per contract programs that we have, the respite, CHP, and CareDot.
Are you saying that the negotiations, just the price increased? What do you mean by salaries? Because you're not paying the salaries, these are contracts.
So we did an amendment to the contract.
Okay.
And so there is a cap for that too. We have to do it per year. And so we already know that that's one of the things we need to do for her to, for Catholic Social Services to add additional clients or consumers is by making the amendment to the contract to make sure they get additional.
Okay, so in these contracts, so we need the 996, the almost $1 million increase in contracts costs, right?
And plus, it also is on the DSS and the director's office, which was, the breakdown is 64,969, and then for the contracts is 931,262. And it totals up to what you said, ma'am, 996,231.
Okay, so what about the director's office? Are you
So-
saying there are increases also in the director's office?
Yeah, this is for, like we share with you, one of our goals is to get our social worker ones that have been working for at least 8 to 10 years, that they've been at social worker 1 for the past years, to get them to social worker 2, to give them that raise and step up to social worker 2.
Okay. So fair to say that with the ARP funds, you will be able to handle more clients because you're increasing your social workers, your program coordinators, you've got an acting program director, you are recruiting community program aides, and then you're going to increase the contracts, right? The number of people serviced by the contracts.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so thank you for the updates on your progress. And I was going to ask you about the Blind Enterprise Program. At the oversight hearing, you said you were going to do a survey. Has that been conducted? Because I know, Mr. Cameron, you said that will be implemented in 2 years, but I was hoping maybe sooner. So maybe, was there a survey conducted? That point, it was supposed to be for, see who meets the qualifications of any of the vending facilities meet these guidelines? Yes, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Speaker. As I had stated earlier, back in February 2nd, when I first came in to take on the vocational rehab program, it was shortly a week after, to my surprise, I came across a document, actually I was quite excited, that the federal government actually approved Guam for a Randall Shepherd Act federal facilities program. It didn't move. I can't answer for the past, but I can tell you that I'm pretty excited about moving it forward. We have so many military build-ups going on here in Guam. There are so many facilities going up, and it makes sense that this partnership be seamless, and it's fully supported by Washington, D.C. So I do have the current commissioner, the appointee of President Biden, in full support of this. And I've had this discussion with her and discussion with the federal counterparts under Rehab Service Administration. And yes, the go is, if I could open it tomorrow, I would do so. I just don't think that the proper planning, and I wanted to answer your question. The community service needs assessment fell apart in this government shutdown nationwide. As early as 2 months ago, I have revisited the needs assessment, and I have with me today Marilyn, who's doing all the data. We got to give Marilyn really kudos here, because we haven't had an active administrative services officer for almost 8 months. Our staff of 9, we're talking about admin assistants and clerks and whatnot. They're doing the work of the ASO and not getting paid for it. And she single-handedly, along with Lydia here, who has helped me as the lead vocational rehab counselor, to actually step into the position that our prior ASO had prior to getting sick, and is abounding information that would provide us that need assessment you so clearly stated. We believe that that needs assessments can be completed within the next 2 months, and a copy, of course, will come to each and every lawmaker so that they can see exactly what the community needs enveloped as far as the Rehab Act. And so we're excited about completing that, and right now we're just moving on and trying to catch up with some of our federal reporting requirements for finance. Some of our federal reporting requirements for finance are predating back 2018.
Okay.
Anyway, 18, 19, 20, 21, we're moving forward, and we're really excited that there are no problems with us drawing down the federal funds that we've expended local funds on. So the way it works, for most grants anyways, or at least VR did, is we spend money up front under the local, and then we turn in our federal reports. And based on the federal report expenditures, it would give us the drawdown ability. Unfortunately, since the absence of an ASO, those federal reports predate back to 2018.
All right.
18, 19, 20, 21.
Yes.
We're at the cusp of finishing all of it.
Great, thank you.
And we're looking at, as early as maybe next month, of drawing down an additional $900,000 to the general fund, thanks to.
Great. Well, thank you, Marilyn and Lillian. Thank you so much. And everyone on your team for the presentation today. And what, Deputy Director?
Sorry, Speaker. I just kind of wanted to clarify. I know you kept going back to why is there such a, what's the increase and so forth. The majority of the increase is for the CSS contracts. And if you, can you hear me? Sorry. The majority of the increase is for the CSS contracts. And if you look at last year's special fund, we had a total of $4,060,500. And those were specific to this Catholic Social Services contracts that we received, as you all know. Then this year we asked for an increase of the $991,762 specific to the contracts as well, because of the fact that obviously we all need, there's so many more individuals out there that need that service, and we needed to find another way to increase that, and obviously it was just through funding. We don't have any other funding besides the local funding to support those contracts at this time. And you know, some of the challenges that Catholic Social Services is having as well is retention. They're really having a hard time retaining the current employees they have, so they're trying to find incentives as well to help them stay on board. So even with the current contracts that we have, like I mentioned earlier, we are using some ARP funding. Only 10% of what the current contract is what we're allowed to increase with the funding. So with that alone, we don't even have that many clients that can be served by by the contracts, because CSS continues to have a hard time recruiting people to provide that service. So, so we're trying to see how we can, that's the main reason for the increase, is basically the contracts. Everything else is pretty much just status quo with increments and everything else.
That's what I thought. So we're really not making any changes to your agency.
Correct.
We're only changing those contracts that actually came from another agency to you last year. And we're increasing those contracts, hopefully to increase the number of people that they serve, but very
little
still very
amounts.
limited, maybe 2-3 people more, it sounds
Yes.
like. That's so sad, actually.
Yes, and it's not just because of it, and sometimes it's not just about the funding, it's about the pool of individuals that are out there to provide that service, which we're all having, a problem with. Because we did amend CHP and respite care. However, Caradot homes, we couldn't even amend that because CSS would not be able to handle the load of the increase.
But the CSS contracts, they're set, they've been signed, there's no issue of them getting paid, that type of thing? Okay.
No.
Okay, so then my final question, I'm just going to go back to this because I want it to be crystal clear, and that is, so you say in your action plan that DISID continues to face the challenges of filling critical positions, and you've told us today that your critical positions are social workers, at least 2 more, and you list a few others. 2 of these are, what are your barriers to hiring more social workers? Is it simply funds, or are there any other barriers? And are you unable to move money around in your agency to do that?
So first of all, yes, there are several barriers. The first thing is, not everybody who is a social worker wants to work with people with disabilities. So it's a really, it takes a certain type of blood to work with people with disabilities, as much as CPS and the elderly. So that's one of the barriers. The second barrier is the pool of individuals that are out there to provide that to who want to apply, right? Because that's another thing.
We have an island-wide shortage of social workers.
It's a social services it's just hard to get people to work in those areas. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot the third question.
Are you able to move money around in your agency to fund those positions instead?
No, because majority of our local funding goes to those contracts. So that, we need to make sure that those services are being provided with the current funding that we already have and what we're trying to request for. And then, of course, we're supplementing with the ARP funding for now.
All right. And Madam Speaker, also with the social workers, a lot of them like to go to the private sector because they pay more. So
DOA is doing a study, a compensation study, and I hope that you are very active in that, Director, and that you don't let DISID social workers be neglected in that study. If they're harder to recruit in your agency, that has to be very apparent in the job descriptions and what they do over there in their compensation study. Yes?
Can I just also add that, what it's been hard, even with the funding that we have with ARP to recruit social workers. We didn't even have a sufficient pool for the 3 positions that we currently have out there for recruitment. And a lot of it is because of the fact that the funding is temporary. And so that's why we're hoping that there is a way that we can not have this funding temporary and really have it sustained by the legislature to provide that funding for us. Because a lot of this, I can tell you, I interviewed about 5 individuals, and they were like, well, if it's only for a limited time, why would I leave my current job to do that?
Yeah, I can understand
there's
that.
no stability, right? So
yes.
I understand,
sure.
But some of them took the plunge and are actually here, so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm grateful too. But so that leads me to 2 things. One is your request matches the governor's request. That means you have not impressed upon the governor the need for additional social workers this fiscal year either, right? So that she also is advocating for that. So both of you, your agency and the governor, are requesting just this amount that you have and to increase contracts, but not to really increase your pool of social workers. your recruitment of social workers, you know, or anything like that. And then again, please make sure that you don't neglect that DOA compensation study that they are doing. You have to be active in that. Mr. Chair, thank you to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy, maybe you guys can do the math real simple. We're only looking at, as I mentioned, the job coach, and then we're looking at the 2 additional social worker. We're looking at under 200,000 increase, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I know you're good on the computer, so do the request, get it to our office, okay?
Will do, sir.
It's heard on in this hearing.
Yes, sir.
I want to be able to address it. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with our colleagues.
Thank you.
You're an agency that has a need. We want to address this and move on. Senator Tello, you have the floor, ma'am. Any question for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to my colleagues and especially to the staff and management of DISID. My neighbors, you're still at DNA building, correct?
Just DVR.
Is there any possibilities that you may be moving out of that building to another facility, considering, you know, the access is kind of difficult for most people with disabilities to go in and out?
Yes, ma'am, that's one of our goals. In one of our slides, we did talk about DSS, Division of Supported Services, did move to the first floor, right, if you're facing MISCELLANEOUS on the left side. And then one of the next goal is to get DVR out.
Okay, that's good to hear. You were provided this spreadsheet earlier, a couple of them, okay? And I just wanted to go over, if you look at that spreadsheet that was provided to you, in FY22, we're going to go under, first it has general fund, so we're going under FY22. Do you have that? Okay, great. And then you go further down to special funds. And then you go further down to federal matching funds. So you see those, the different columns. Well, let's go up to the general fund where it says 295,688. You see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is the matching fund needed for the federal funds for DVR, which is coming into the matching fund would yield you 2,085,461, correct? Do you see that number?
Yes.
And I'm looking at FY23. The matching fund from the general fund is 444,203, but yet when you go to what it yields to the federal government, it gives you the same amount. So we're having to put out more in general fund money in order to get this fund. So can you give a reason to that? Because I'm looking where it says footnotes, matching funds 78.7%, and then local matches 21.3%. So can you tell me what changed here? We're almost doubling the amount. And this is under, for DVR, yeah, still coming in at 2 million.
Hi, Senator. So from what my understanding is with how the local match works with VR local match is the total amount, and I believe this does look off. It actually is, because 2.085461 we received for this current fiscal year, and then this is what's anticipated for this coming fiscal year. So what it should be is the general fund should be matching with a 21.3% match, which actually comes out to, sorry, I'm not an ASO, so I'm learning as the process go, but
I feel so bad. You guys are, okay, I will. I feel so bad because, you know, you guys really need an ASO. And speaking of which, I think somebody said something about an ASO in December. What is the amount you're going to need in order to hire an ASO for your agency?
Go ahead, Joseph.
If I could just touch base
Oh, okay,
on,
let me
the
get
federal
back.
match.
Let me go back to the ASO first real quick, and then Joseph, I know because you're long-winded, I'll get you on that one. So on the ASO, real short, how much funding do you need in order to hire an ASO?
So actually, we have a current ASO. She's just on medical leave, Senator. So, you know, we don't need to hire another ASO.
Okay, when are you anticipating her return?
We don't know when she will be returning. For the past 3 months, there have been additional requests to extend.
So in the meantime.
So in the meantime, the Office of the Governor has identified funds from the R grant to hire an administrative officer, which is just a step below it, to infuse some of the hemorrhaging we have right now for federal.
Okay, so then, in other words, she's been gone for about, what, 3 months, 6?
Since
6
December.
months.
7 months now. Okay, so you still have that funding, though, within your office, right? And you're
She's
still-
on sick leave, so she's consuming the federal grant.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, she's on sick leave, so she's authorized that. But the job isn't getting done, is what I'm saying. And for Adelup to step forward and use some of the R grants so that we can get an AO at the very least and move forward our needs. We're pretty excited about that. I want to thank the director for reaching out for that.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to have Senator Brown, when it's her turn, she's going to get more in detail on that. So Joseph, let's go back to the matching funds. Why are we paying this for FY23, $444,000 versus last year at $295,688, and still yielding in federal matching funds $2,085,461?
So I'm doing the math as I speak to you. 2.560856 times 21.3%. What that basically means is, and I'm going to write this down, and I hope you will too. 500. This sounds right. 543,332,328. But you need to apply the Territorial Omnibus Act, which is the first $200,000 is waived. So if you take $200,000 and subtract it from 543, correct? Your match should say 343,332.32. That's really the local match.
Well, then-
I don't know how it came to be 444.
Okay, so this number is wrong then, correct?
It is.
Okay. The budget that you presented a couple months ago to OFB, committee chair, that was certified by BBMR? It was certified, right? Okay, and you're coming to us with the same budget certified by BBMR today, the same numbers coming to us today. Has that been certified by BBMR? Has there been any change from what you submitted to us the first time?
So when we initially submitted the budget, it was in January.
Right.
So I believe at that time, the federal match, the federal side of the funding was less. But then when what Joseph had read out, he just received, which obviously increased it. So that's probably why he has a different number with regards to the local match.
Okay, so, but then again, like I said, what you submitted today in your PowerPoint presentation, is it the same numbers that you submitted in January when you had a certified budget by BBMR submitted to us? I just wanted to verify that. The reason why I'm asking is that we're having several budgets coming before us, and they're different from what it was submitted to our offices for us to review, and then as I do my review, I'm seeing these numbers change. And you cannot submit a budget to the legislature unless it's been certified by BBMR.
So the budget that we initially had that was certified by BBMR, there was no change in the cap.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bottom line was the same. It was just how they had to move things around because of the local match increasing for the DVR local match.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll make it known for the record because this DVR local matching fund is different, and it's based on your calculations, it's lower. So if we stay with the same budget, at least we can now deviate this funding towards to maybe the two additional social workers that are needed. I believe you mentioned about 102,000 needed for 2 more social workers, 120 or 102. So maybe we can deviate that number toward there. The other question I had, which is very important, is your reserves. Are you still, are you receiving your allotments? Let's go to FY21. There was about almost $400,000 that was set in as reserves for DISID, 400,000 in FY21. Did you receive those reserves?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You received the full reserves that was set aside in FY21?
Yes.
Okay. And this year, they also set aside again almost $400,000 in reserves. Or are you receiving your full allotment? Are they still putting money aside from your allotment?
So we'll be able to get the money as we're sending the billings into CSS.
I'm sorry, say again. I'm sorry, the muffling, it's kind of hard. You're going to have to talk close.
We'll be getting the money. Sorry, my glasses keep on. We'll be getting the money as we send in our billings for CSS, for the contract. It'll be released.
It will, but it's being reserved. It's being set aside, right? For
Correct.
DSO. Okay.
Correct.
Did you have any carryovers in FY21?
No.
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 In FY21? No
We did not.
carryovers whatsoever? Okay. And FY22, are you anticipating any type of carryover?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you're really utilizing every penny
Yes, ma'am.
that's been appropriated to your office, and you have no excess revenue at all from 21 and nothing anticipated for 2022.
Yes.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know you're using every penny that you have and putting it to good use for that. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Senator, I believe the only thing that we have not used at this time for this current fiscal year was the money for job coaches. The
Yeah, that's what-
68,000.
That was my next question with
Yeah,
regards to
the
job coaches.
68,738.
Yeah.
We have not used any of
Okay,
that money.
so you do have some money then. Let's
But-
backtrack.
But it's not money that we're going to use.
Yeah.
But it's still in your account. In other words, okay, so last year in FY 2022, you received $68,738. You used any of that money?
No.
Okay, so you still have that money. In FY 21, you received $32,706. Now, I do understand, because of COVID, did you utilize in FY 2021 $32,706?
So as you're saying numbers, we just know that with the 68,000 that we know that could go to job coach, that's unfunded mandate, but really that was supposed to go to, there was amended with the legislature that money was actually secured for the Catholic Social Services. So we know that money can be used for Catholic Social Services. Yeah, so now we can't because, I know, bottom line is, yeah,
Bottom line,
yeah, there's no new money.
there's no what?
Can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
No new money?
I would like to answer that, please.
Sure, Coach.
I was chief of staff for 3 centers. I was chief of staff for Ways and Means when Carl Gutierrez was the chairman. I understand clearly the policy side, and I understand clearly the executive side. And I'm here to say for the record, it's nice to propose legislation, and it's wonderful if only it was funded. That 68,000+, as we understand it from BBMR, had to be taken out of our existing budget, which meant we will fall short of our CSS budget, $68,000, because it was an unfunded mandate. There was no new money. It was to just use existing monies that we already are falling short of. So the answer is, if the legislature wants to fund a program, then use new money. Don't use our Catholic Social Services contract monies.
But this 68 million for the
No,
job
not
coach-
68 million,
I mean,
68,000.
Oh, I wish, right? 68,000 for job coaches, then it hasn't been utilized. It's just sitting there, right? It's
There's
sitting
no
there.
money. We have to secure every penny of that for Catholic Social Services. I am not going to go over to Catholic Social Services and say you are going to be unfunded.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it if I was director.
Well, okay, so that, what about FY21, like I mentioned, the 32,000, is that still sitting there too? That was in FY21.
Yeah, we haven't used it.
Okay, so we have some money sitting there. Okay, that's, so on top of the matching fund, and then the job coaches that are still, money that's still sitting there, I'm glad to hear that we are finding some additional money to go to. What's really important is to provide the social services, social workers, and,
No.
okay. How
Senate-
about any prior year obligations? Have you had any prior year obligations at all?
No.
They're all paid for?
That's correct.
Okay, that's good to hear too as well. You know, the art funding, I have a report, but it looks like it's a month, it might be a month behind. You received $3.9 million, and according to the last report, you've only expended 22,000 of that. 22,000, according to the report. But now you're saying you used 1.9? You've expended 1.9 of the art funding? It might be in the next report that's supposed to be given to the legislature to review, but I'm only showing in this April,
What you wrote is projected.
as of April 30th, DISID receiving 3.954022. The only thing that's been expended is $22,000. You've got a balance of $3.9 million, according to this report. Can you just verify that for sure, how much money you've expended already of the three?
Yes, Senator, you're correct. That's not updated because, like you said, we started recruiting more personnel. So that will definitely change based on the personnel. And then, of course, the funding that we put into the 2 amended CSS contracts. So that would definitely be updated.
But right now, you can tell me how much you've spent so far?
Can you, I'm sorry, can I go ahead and calculate? And you
Sure.
can just,
I mean, right now, I heard 1.9. Is that about right?
I think it's a little less than that, but I'll go ahead and get you the actual figure. Oh, that's not it.
Joseph, maybe you can answer this question. Is there any federal fund carryovers at all?
Of course, we have current funds of the prior year carryover. That's not unusual. It's a 2-year grant to carry over.
Okay, and has those federal funds been expended as per their,
We're spending down
Yeah.
regularly like we have prior years, so we have no concerns.
Okay.
To
Yeah,
answer
you will
your
be
que-
spending the full amount. In other words, you're not going to be returning any more money to, I mean, any money to the federal
The
government.
current carryover, there is no monies that can be sent back. If they're not expended, they just go back to the federal treasury.
Okay.
Now, understanding that all grants that have the opportunity of a 2-year funding source, that you can do a carryover, there are agencies throughout the United States that have what they call order of selection. For example, the state of Hawaii. Hawaii is not able to service all people with disabilities in the VR program. They're what they call order of selection, so they're not able to service the population. For those individual states that have that problem, the vocational rehab monies increase, federally speaking, the U.S. Congress increases that amount annually.
Okay.
It doesn't grow that many more people with disabilities needing jobs on Guam.
Right.
I'm just saying that factually. To the extent that, for example, I am not able to expend $300,000 out of the $2.1 million, then I am to return what I cannot spend
Right. Right. Right.
to DC to give to Hawaii, for example, so that they can serve. Because if I don't, or any state for the matter doesn't, it just goes back to the federal treasury and doesn't service any human being.
How many employees at DISID are paid federally?
I'm sorry, I can't.
How many employees at DISID are paid federally?
You're talking about vocational rehab.
Yes.
Vocational rehab is the only division under DISID that has federal funds.
Okay, and how many employees?
Right now, we only have 9. We should be maxing to 22 employees. I looked that by December, I will have the full 22 employees.
Okay, and they, all 9 are paid by federal funds, right? So if this federal funds are no longer in existence, or there's a cut in federal funding, then that wipes out some employees, correct?
For any and all federally funded positions,
And
yes.
positions, okay.
Government-wide.
Okay, I hope I give you enough time to calculate how much you've spent so much on the ARP funding.
It comes out to $689,941.
That's all you've spent of the 3.9 million.
Yes.
Thus far, yes, ma'am. We received it in November, and we started the recruitment process in December for the positions, and then we just started in getting the personnel just actually today. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you plan on encumbering any more of this 3.9 for FY22, or are you anticipating using the bulk of it in 23?
Well, we're using some now. We're really actively trying to use more that we can now, as much as we can. And like I said, we tried to use as much funding as we could for the CSS contracts, but because of the law stating we can only go up to 10% of the current contract, that's all we could give at that time for CSS.
Okay, so that's the
That's
anticipation
inclusive.
for 23 too, is right? 2023?
Yes, we would like, if we could.
10%?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then other than that, what do you plan on using ARP funding in FY23 besides that 10% of the contract? What else?
Well, as you could see, we talked about adult daycare services. That's what we're trying to secure. We've had conversations just this past week with 2 individuals that are interested in starting a program. So we need them to, get the business license. So we're investing or having that conversation with them because we're really in need of that.
Okay. My last question would be with regards to, since I guess we're still in the state of emergency technically, but since that has DISID fully reinstated its face-to-face services?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
How long ago did you start that?
Oh,
Maybe,
Face-to-face?
yeah, last year. Maybe.
Since last year.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
you're up and running?
about
No.
June or July, about
So-
June of last year, ma'am.
Okay, that's very good to hear.
Yes.
Very
So,
good.
so also, ma'am, because we have the clients of our individuals with disability, we do know they have comorbidities. So we give them that flexibility, whether it be on the phone,
Yeah.
virtual. So we still give them the option as to how they want to proceed to meet with our social workers and our clients.
Yes, sir. State your name too for the record before you begin,
Jeff Warfield with DSS.
and you're a social worker,
And
correct,
I'm a
Jeff?
social worker.
Okay.
So I guess officially face-to-face, yeah, we went back June of last year. But to be honest, we never ended face-to-face because we could not effectively represent our clients. So even when we were initial lockdown, and we still had to go out, we still had to do home visits. So there was, just from a practical standpoint, there was never a time that we weren't doing face-to-face.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you so much. And Jeff, thank you so much for your hard work. I know there is a shortage in your line of occupation, and whatever we can do to encourage that, you know, I hope, please let us know. Let us know. Talk to us on what we can do to assist you. You want to make a
All right,
comment
thank
to
you.
that?
I would like to add something. and
Okay. As a social
This
worker.
may be my only time to speak, so I'll throw this out now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
As a social worker, and then talking with my clients, and I had this conversation with one on Friday, it seems just the individuals with disabilities and accessibility and all of that a lot of times comes as an afterthought. And so we seem to find ourselves reacting to problems as opposed to addressing symptoms. And so, you know, I would just like to say, going forward, we spend more time kind of projecting and predicting and anticipating. So, like, you know, we really got caught with the COVID, and what we've seen since then is how many homeless disabled people we have, how our numbers have gone up, and there's simply not enough shelters. There's not enough GURA vouchers. And so we're reacting and we're responding, and the constituents are frustrated because the assistance isn't there. And we get very frustrated just telling them, hey, it's not there. It's, you know, it's only so much we can do. So I guess my request would be we just be more forward-thinking in anticipating our needs on the island. Thank you.
And thank you, Jeff. Yes, I think being proactive is something that we need to push forward, and more of a reaction that way, proactive than reactive. You're absolutely right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Senator Chris. Chris, do you have any questions, sir, for the panel?
Excuse us, Mr. Chairman, and to our colleagues and folks from DISID, thank you for being here today. Most of the detailed questions are asked on the budget, and I've been appreciative of this interaction. So I'm just going to ask a couple of programmatic questions. There was a discussion on the increase based on the request of the 900,000+ to increase contractual. I don't need too much detail, but I think it's kind of important for our guests that are watching also, and just folks that are interested in what's happening. Under these contracts, are there social work services being provided?
Of course, yeah.
Yes, sir. In fact, I mentioned earlier that we did bring on a new employee that was going to be assigned to those programs.
Sir, so the social workers that you're asking about, I'm assuming it's specific to the contracts, correct?
Right,
So,
because I want to try to,
yeah, to separate.
I'm going to make an attempt here to just
Correct.
bifurcate, because I know, as Mr. Warfield and others have discussed, you know, the fact that it's critical at your level
Yes.
that you're providing social services within, you know, your active staffing pattern and the like. In fact, I want to
Yes.
go there next. But I
Yes.
just wanted to also see what level of services are being provided under the contractual, because you're raising the contractual, which would make sense if it's to provide additional services with social workers who are providing those services.
So, first of all, the contracts are not specific to social work case management. What they are for specific programs and services, like I mentioned, like CHP, which is like an adult, like a day program, and then, of course, Homes, which is a 24-hour program. So those are specific contracts to those type of services. Those, we do not incorporate in those contracts social workers. So social workers is a totally separate case management like Jeff. So the three contracts are specific, like I mentioned, to respite care and personal care attendants. So it has nothing to do with social workers, if that clarifies it.
And I think that's why we're drilling down on the fact that your budget request for
Yes.
social workers has to be clear.
Correct, yes,
And it
I
has
understand.
to be clear that in order to accomplish your mission of case management,
Yes.
that's embedded in your request.
Yes,
Because we can all, sympathize with the fact that I've done a lot of
Yeah,
contractual
DYA,
services
yeah.
with DYA and the like. I understand what the community-based programs
Yes.
do, and they're very vital. It's just that for us to be able to drill down on this request and do what we think is right by the mandate that you have
Yes.
is also your critical service of case management.
yes, sir. You're
And
right.
so I'm glad you're working on your promotions. I'm glad because that's another retention tool that
Yes.
you have, but also to ensure that you have, that this request reflects that critical need of case management. That's
Yeah.
I can't overemphasize, I won't belabor it, but I hope that you're currently actively under recruitment for an
Yes.
ASO because I don't know what I would have ever done
Well,
in an agency without an ASO.
BBMR.
our ASO is actually just on medical, she's on medical leave, and I just have to say that BBMR has really been active in assisting me with learning the process and really guiding us with all the ins and outs of not just what the ASO does within the budget, but everything else. So that helps us too, as well as DOA. They've been there to help us as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could even consider a lateral, and I'm sure
Yes.
there are others that could help you. But I get that. But I just wanted to get onto this next one, because I think it's important, and I remember this as well, and I'll see if my memory serves me well. Under the Workforce Investment Act, with your job coaches, is that still an active agreement with Department of Labor?
Nationwide, the vocational rehab programs have partnered. That's why we are now called Combined State Plan. So you have the Workforce Investment Act that partners with a plethora of other agencies to include vocational rehab. And, but when it comes specifically to the VR component, it's separate and segregated separate. So at current, the only program that has job coaching is for the severely disabled, who require, once they're employed, up to 3-4 months of follow-along coaching. And if they need more than that, it's on a case-by-case basis, but not to exceed what it has done over the years. Some have exceeded over 2 years, which is clearly disallowed cost, which means the taxpayers will shoulder that burden if VR did not stop the hemorrhage. I'm telling you, I stopped the hemorrhage on February 2nd.
Yeah, and then congratulate you for that. That's why I'm trying to, I keenly remember that is one of the requirements of the mandated partnership under Workforce Investment Act with Department of Labor is these type of services. I'm just trying to see, if we can continue to marry those programs and
something
have
we
those
might want to
outcomes.
consider, Senator, is if we're going to be talking about job coaching, it's really inappropriate because that word job coaching really comes from the VR component. But if we want to do some follow-along services, it really shouldn't be. They're not employed. They have no qualifications to look at this support services. I would highly recommend looking at giving that $68,000 to Department of Labor.
And that's where I was going.
And also, I want to give thanks to Ed Burns and his wonderful staff. In the absence of having to bear the burden of potential high-risk grantee status, they stepped in. Viola Cruz, who is on the accounting for federal branch, who's been working extremely close with me and my accounting tech. And I'm happy to announce to you that with that added advantage, we are nearly up to date with all our federal grant reportings as of 18, 19, 20, 21, and then moving on to this past March. So not having a full-time administrative service officer has hurt us, I would be remiss if I said it didn't. It hurt us. But the administrative officer that's being funded by Phyllis from the ARA grant is a welcome relief. But I will be looking at potentially funding that position 90% federal, since it's going to be on the federal side. So I'm looking at that opportunity so we can free up some ARA grants for some additional programs that she could offer.
So those are the only questions, Mr. Chairman, that I have at this time. I want to congratulate those who are accepting the collateral duty of helping, you know, with the services that otherwise would be provided by the ASO. I mean, that's just really commendable to the team. But so we'll continue to evaluate what's been put before us. The chairman will give us a markup on this, and certainly thank you for your service.
Thank you, Senator. And Senator Moylan, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panel. Good answers. My questions were answered, but I really can see with our chairman here, I'm sure we'll work with OFP, identifying what we actually need to get done and help you, assist you to get those positions that you need. I do have just one question that we, regarding the ABLE Act. And Director, I think we passed that law back in April 12th. It's Public Law 3690. I'm hoping you can just update with us on that, and since you're working so close with DOA, and just give the public a little briefing about that and let us know where things are at, please.
And sir, I've been meaning to thank you for that, because we did need to move forward with the ABLE's accounts. There are, as you know, I did hear you on the radio with Ben Servino, so the fact that this is going to help our clients securing the money and helping with their medical needs or whatever needs they need for their livelihood. So I appreciate that, sir. And if we need to partner up to get some training going, we can get that done.
Also, I would like to make two nice announcements, really very exciting times, and that is the director had very much indicated, number one, that activities or a day program or a support program of such, we're looking at making that application to the grant as well. So we're pretty excited about that. Number two, I would highly recommend you reconsider that we do not give the Division of Support Services any monies that has nothing to do with their mandate about job coaching. I would highly recommend that be with labor. And thirdly, I wanted to give the good news of all good news. VR funds has monies that we can set aside for facilities. Yes, facilities. So as long as the Governor of Guam matches the 50%. So in stating without unveiling the plan, to soon be unveiled by Governor Liu is an opportunity for a facilities plan that would help individuals with disabilities.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm glad the governor is supporting. Going back to the ABLE plan, so we started it, or it has been started, or it has? Can you confirm that, please?
I believe it's going to be starting in October of 2022.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Reference to any plans you have, if you're looking for matching funds, make sure you share the info with us soon.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
if I may, I'd like to just thank my team here. As you know, that I just got off military order. So Michelle did share that she had to learn all this by herself, and then Joseph jumped in, and I know that the two of them met with you. So I really do appreciate you being patient with me. You know, we really had to learn all this, and I had the crash course of learning this before we came forward. So thank you so much, sir, for being patient.
You don't have to worry about it, Phyllis. Michelle is a quick learner, and Joseph is from the old school, so it's an easy one. Senator Brown, do you have any questions with the panel?
Hopefully not too old, because we're all kind of in the same category, Mr. Chair. I don't want to... like fine wine, as they say. You know, just getting back to the issue of the ASO, I mean, I understand certainly managing an agency, you're going to have personnel that for health or whatever reasons are out for an extended period of time, but there are timelines where you can do evaluations to determine suitability. we don't need to get in the details of this particular employee, but at some point, you know, hopefully you're going to follow those processes to determine their ability to come back. Some illnesses are extended for a long period of time, but you have to always be focused on your mission of making sure the services to provided, because you are paying out that amount. Hiring someone in the, you know, to fill as an assistant, I mean, that's great, but long term, you're also adding on to your additional cost. And while I know some of my colleagues are tremendously generous right now in our time of plenty, but you know, it's always feast to famine, and famine is not that far down the road in my view. I'm only speaking from experience, and Joseph, you know that. We've been around long enough to know that while everything can be good for the moment, it's not going to last. This is an unprecedented time, and it hasn't come since the Adablas administration, and that was over 30 plus years ago. It will not last. So while we are trying to ensure that you provide your critical services, and certainly we meet many government agencies, I think we can agree that the services provided by DISID, a relatively small agency, but the footprint of services that you provide to the community are considerable and very much needed, because we are dealing with people that are in need of that assistance. So, you know, certainly I know we would never argue the need to provide that support. But we also have to be mindful moving forward, especially with the ARP funding that you guys are using, and understandable, it's there, by all means use it, but we also have to be mindful, what are we going to do with those positions? I mean, I love the comment that the legislature will assist us. That's nice. I don't have the money sitting in the bank. I don't think any of us do. We're not hiding it back here. Right, Mr. Chair? We don't have our own little bank account, our own bank vault that we're holding the cash, you know, holding on to it. You know, the reality is going to come. I'm sure DISID will be prioritized over a number of other agencies. But at the same time, it's something to be mindful of. If you're bringing on additional employees during this time on federal funding that is temporary, we need to be mindful of how we're going to address funding that moving forward, because we'll not always have the luxury that we have now. Director, do you want to make a comment? You look like you want to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you for bringing it up about our ASO. We are currently working with DOA. Like you said, the steps of the process of what we need to do to go forward. So that was the third extension of her request for leave. So that's what we're doing right now. And yes, ma'am, we do agree that, you know, the funds is going to run out. We need to figure out. So I know that Joseph did share with you that we did see a grant that we're going to currently try to apply for. So on the DSS side. So.
No, and I appreciate it. In every effort you can certainly get additional federal funding to supplement and continue your work, by all means. I think we all embrace that. But it's just being mindful. I mean, we've not always been in the time of plenty, and the real ability of your leadership is going to come on managing resources when you have less. And many of us have lived in that reality. This is my 14th year in the legislature. It's only the last year and a half I've seen this continued desire to spend, and directors from every department have come before us for continued increases. Last year, the only one who was fairly modest was the Director of Land Management. Everyone else. And this year, at a time when our economy is still not back to where it was in January of last year, we have our departments coming with $9, $10+ million requests over existing budgets. So yours is modest, certainly you're bringing up, and I appreciate the fact you clarified that it's being used for your contracts and the outreach services that are being provided. It's not something that's being expected to be spent within the department or expansion within the department. So I appreciate you elaborating on that. Joseph, you want to say something? I know you want to say something.
Yes.
I can feel it. I can feel it.
You could feel
Close
it.
my eyes.
You bring me back memories when you and I were both directors for Governor Joseph Ada. Yeah, we go way back.
That dates us. 30
Makes a
plus
big
years.
difference. I know I'm elderly because I'm already on Medicare.
Okay.
That's the litmus test right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
In all honesty, when I was director of Department of VOCREAP, then soon to be Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disabilities, there were 2 additional programs that were created other than support services. And then it was also health planning, remember, and then DVR. Unfortunately, there was a repeal to remove the health planning. And inadvertently, as we reviewed this document with the Attorney General, it was inadvertently also including the Division of Evaluation, Enforcement, and Compliance. That was the arm of the ADA. At that time, we had Bobby Rozier, we had Christine Flores. They were both out there giving tickets, and they were going after everybody who was against the laws for compliance, whether it be Title 1, 2, 3, or 4, whether it's employment, telecommunication, whether it's public service, whether it's reasonable accommodation on accessible placards, etc. That money was generated from tickets that were provided for and paid for that sits at the Superior Court of Guam. That money funded their positions. We didn't ask for money back then for the Division of Evaluation, Enforcement, and Compliance. I'm begging of you to please reconsider, re-implement the Division of Evaluation, Enforcement, and Compliance. We're not going to ask a penny from you. The actual fines that are paid will pay for those salaries. Thank you.
No, I understand, but I also think there's a law or issue that came up legally with regards to, and that's why, for example, the Guam Police don't receive that money goes into the judicial fund. It doesn't go directly into the Guam Police Department, because they don't want a situation where it becomes an incentive to issue fines and penalties if you're going to personally or directly profit from it. But that's another issue for another day.
Yeah, but we do have a set-aside fund by Superior Court just for that purpose. And we couldn't even touch it now because there is no such thing as a Division of Evaluation, Enforcement, and Compliance. Within the DEEC, sort of the acronym, it empowered Guam as it adopted the entirety of the federal legislation, Americans with Disabilities Act, Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4. Guam doesn't have that anymore.
Well, I think we're also finding, Joseph, having been around, is actually some of the services that used to be provided don't exist. You know, the facility used to have across from JFK, which is totally deteriorated and is overgrown and not used. I don't know the circumstances under which DVR moved out of that facility or didn't continue to maintain the programs, but certainly some of those were very beneficial back in the day. I remember as a child going on a field trip there and actually seeing the work that was being done by our persons with disabilities. They had active, you know, projects and crafts and things that they were working on. They were able to also sell and benefit from their goods that they made there. I remember buying a cup for my dad, a coffee cup that had a local beach scenery and coconut tree, and it was and it had Guam on it. And it was made on Guam. And we just don't see that anymore. And I don't know if that's something that, and I don't mean to isolate or limit them simply within a single facility, but are things like that can be looked at, because for some that are maybe not always going to fit in or want to fit into a regular work environment, and they're very creative.
Thank you
what
for that.
options do we have for those type of outlets? Because I think you would find a supportive community, including as our tourism industry rebounds.
Thank you
that
for
there
that.
be special consideration to having an outlet for the purchase and sale that our individuals who do that work and who are creative can benefit from. And that was very standard back then, and they actually did the work in that facility. And I haven't seen, I don't know if it's still happening. I don't see it anymore. And I just think there's a wonderful benefit, because that's an incentive for them also, for those who are more creative, to have financial benefit from their abilities and their creativity that they have.
When the Rehab Act was passed in 1973, there were two things that it did, okay? One was to undo Brody Memorial as a segregated school for only the Brodies, as the Chamorros called us. I say that because I was a product of special ed myself. And that's why I have my mouth. I talk a lot. That's part of my disabling condition. But you're forcing me to unveil the governor's plan, which I will not do. I'll let her do it. But yes, something is to be done across JFK. I can say only that much.
Well, I hope it's something that benefits.
And I will help her with that.
I hope it's something that benefits your organization. I know there's been many interests in the use of that property. It's a prime location, and there's been many proposals over the years, but you know, the original intention of the property and the use of it. Like I said, I don't know why over the years it's fallen into disrepair, and I don't, you know, what has happened to the programs that our people with disabilities were able to benefit from in the past. But I think when you see productive things like that, that there's a plus and a beneficial contribution to the community can be made, and I'd like to see more of that.
Yes, and for the record, the property across JFK is, if you look at the land management deed, it says Department of Vocational Rehab, not DISID.
Yeah.
So
Well-
it falls under VR to this very day.
Well, like I said, I'd want to see productive use of that property for your program, even though there are many others that have wanted to appropriate it, so. I'm just
That won't
bringing that up.
happen. We're going to keep it,
Very good.
and
Well,
we're going to build facilities.
I think we look forward to it. And would that also include your offices? Because I noticed the increase from 35,000 to 100 plus for rental. Did you expand your footprint, or what's the situation from the last couple fiscal years?
It was because we moved the director's office and the Division of Support Services to a first floor
Okay,
building.
so first floor, it's the square footage is more expensive and for
Yes, and
accessibility.
then of course retrofitting the facility so that it's ADA compliant for our staff as well as our clientele.
Okay. And would you don't have to reveal your plan, but would you be looking at incorporating office space? I mean, you know, permanent agencies of the government, I still don't understand why we rent, because we are expending more money over time that could be, you know, financed into the construction of facilities even, so that there's long-term benefit to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer doesn't have to spend many times over
Part of the
for
plan for
office space.
Part of the plan for VR is to go into the 50-50 match, facilities match, so that issues like what you've discussed could be resolved, and that we wouldn't be paying, you know, $20,000, $30,000 monthly.
And then you can design the facilities to make them user-friendly, and, you know, it's not like the property isn't sitting there.
And
so-
nothing prohibits the DVR property to also involve DISID as the designated state agency of Voc Rehab. Nothing prohibits them.
Well, Joseph, I'll leave you guys collectively and creatively to work on all that. I'm sure you will.
Well, I had a headache building the museum. This is minor.
I wanted to ask, I know you're a small agency, but I saw no funding for drug testing, and I bring this up because we have an incredibly significant drug problem on the island. I want to ensure that all public officials that are working for our people are coherent and doing what they should be doing, and they're not on something that's illegal and inappropriate. So is there any reason why you don't have any funding for drug testing? And are any of your, I don't know what it would be, but do you have any designated positions in your agency?
All of our positions are designated to have drug testing.
Well, I see 0, 0, and 0, and 0 in your budget.
It's all under the HR amount. It's included on that.
And how much did you set aside? I don't see it on this initial, I don't see it in your
So
budget request here.
So on the HR, that would be DOA to be doing that, to give us that support.
Does DOA, I know they do it for new employees coming in, but do you do any regular drug testing? If your positions are all designated, do you do any random drug testing at all? Have you?
Since I've been on board, we have not.
Okay.
But I know that DOA is working with other agencies to move forward. So as we know, random drug testing is random. So we just
Is DOA funding it? I mean, versus your own budget? Most
No.
agencies have the funding in their budget
no,
for their own agency.
no, we don't.
The autonomous agencies.
Yeah,
I know that the autonomous agencies fund their own program.
Yes.
no, but she's.
Well, it's just, I just want to make sure, because, you know, it's not by this administration, but there's an executive order that does require regular drug testing of designated positions.
Absolutely.
So I'm just bringing it up because we have, I mean, the only thing that's decreased in cost on Guam is the cost of drugs. Gas, everything else has continued to go up, but that tells you the ability and the fact it's readily available in our community, and that's very scary. And again, I just think as public officials, we need to set that example and address that issue within our agency. If you have designated positions, then there should be regular drug testing of those positions.
Okay.
Hopefully, it discourages people from getting on drugs in the first place. So I'm just bringing, it's not a very big issue, but a significant issue. So I would request you to include funding for drug testing.
Okay, thank you. We'll address that.
With that, I don't have any other questions. I think you've elaborated pretty much on the presentation for your budget. Thank you for doing so. Thank you very
Right.
much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. And on for DISID, and for all the other Governor of Guam agency, please take note. Senator Brown has asked this question of everyone. Drug testing. Put for but don't wait to come here and answer the question. Be able to say it out loud, up front. She's very concerned. I'm concerned. It should be a drug-free Gov Guam agency anyway. Moving along, the committee will conclude the budget hearing of DISID. Committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. and Agustin at gmail.com, or to my office located at Rand Care Building, second floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tumuning, Guam. Zeus Masi for your attendance, and Michelle, you know what to give us, okay? Update, thank you. For your attendance, participating in today's hearing, and for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 276-36 shore relative to the Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disability is duly heard and is now adjourned. It is 11:13. Please be safe and have a nice day. Thank you.